Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone. I'm Graham Henderson. I'm the CEO here at the London Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very happy to welcome you here to RBC Place, which is putting on another terrific event for us. We'll begin today by talking about the Chamber's commitment to economic reconciliation with Indigenous peoples in Canada, or in London, in our case. But this is something that extends, it's a responsibility that we all have as businesses. And I think one of the things that I would remind folks is that the land acknowledgement, the call for land acknowledgements comes from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's report. And it's in a section called Calls to Action. It's not called Calls to Acknowledgement, it's Calls to Action. And acknowledgement is an action, but it's only one action of many that we need to take. And these actions are critical for fostering equity, healing, sustainable development. For centuries, Indigenous communities have faced systemic barriers to economic participation, and this stems from colonial policies, land dispossession, and the marginalization of their cultural and economic processes. And the business community and the Chambers of Commerce played a part in this. Economic reconciliation seeks to address these injustices by creating pathways for Indigenous peoples to regain autonomy over their resources, participate fully in the economy, and share in the wealth generated from their traditional lands. This process not only empowers Indigenous communities, but it strengthens Canada, London as a whole by recognizing and leveraging the rich cultural and economic contributions of Indigenous peoples. Moreover, economic reconciliation is a key component of the broader process of nation building here in Canada, fostering trust, collaborative partnerships, equitable resource sharing agreements, and support for Indigenous-led businesses, all of which are priorities for us at the Chamber. These are critical steps towards creating a more inclusive economy. And these efforts are not just moral imperatives, and I've made that point repeatedly, but they're also opportunities for innovation and growth as Indigenous perspectives and often bring sustainable and community-focused approaches to economic development. And I know that we at the Chamber are benefiting from the advice we're receiving from the community. By prioritizing economic reconciliation, businesses, you, can demonstrate your commitment to honoring treaty obligations and building a future founded on respect, mutual benefit, and shared prosperity. At the Chamber, we continue to seek our own path through active engagement with the Indigenous communities in the area. And as part of our strategic plan refresh, which is ongoing right now, we're seeking advice as to actually how we might meaningfully contribute to positive change. So, reminder, it's calls to action, and acknowledgement is only one action. The second thing that I wanted to address today is also important to the entire business community. And I wanted to acknowledge that the 22nd was Bell Canada's Let's Talk Day. This campaign, as everyone knows, is a Canadian mental health initiative aimed at raising awareness, reducing stigma, and funding mental health programs through public engagement and corporate donations. It encourages open conversations about mental health and donates money for every interaction on social media calls or texts that are made. We're very proud to support this campaign, and here's why. Addressing mental health issues in the business environment is crucial for fostering a healthy and productive workplace. Employees are the backbone of any organization, and their well-being directly impacts their performance, creativity, and ability to collaborate effectively. And ignoring mental health can lead to increased absenteeism, reduced morale, and higher turnover rates, all of which can harm an organization's bottom line. By prioritizing mental health, companies not only support their employees, but also enhance their resilience and long-term success in a competitive market. Investing, and we all need to do this, in mental health initiatives also reflects an organization's commitment to corporate social responsibility. And we need to double down on this at this point in time more than probably ever. Providing resources such as counseling services, stress management programs, and flexible work arrangements show employees that their mental well-being is valued. This builds trust and loyalty, leading to a stronger, more engaged workforce. Furthermore, fostering an open dialogue about mental health reduces stigma, encouraging employees to seek help and without fear of judgment, which can significantly improve their overall quality of life. Finally, a proactive approach to mental health can help mitigate risks associated with burnout and workplace conflicts. In high-pressure environments, and we're all in them, unmanaged stress can escalate into more severe health problems affecting not only individuals but teams. By cultivating a supportive culture where mental health is a priority, businesses can create a positive environment that promotes innovation, collaboration, and sustainable growth. In doing so, they not only meet the needs of their workforce, but they position themselves as leaders in the employee care and in organizational excellence. And that's going to be a priority for our chamber for the next couple of years in our strategic plan. And I just wanted to bring attention to that for all of the businesses here in the room today. So with those two introductory comments, I'm now going to call our chair, Rhonda Hoya, to the stage to take us to the next phase of our event. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I mean, look at this room. It is the 46th annual State of the City address here in London. My name is Rhonda Hoya. I'm the board chair for the London Chamber right now, and I'm also a partner with Deloitte Canada. So thank you for the outstanding response and showing up today, London. You always show up. So this gives us an opportunity to celebrate and remember that this is one of the largest State of the City addresses across Canada. So thank you. You all enjoyed breakfast this morning. I think we can show our appreciation as well for RBC Place. Thank you. And we have lots to get through this morning, but first we want to acknowledge our sponsors today. For those of you who are at the Business Achievement Awards, let's save our applause to the end of announcing all of our wonderful sponsors. So first, I'd like to acknowledge our platinum sponsor, Deloitte, as well as our gold sponsor, Enbridge Gas Incorporated. Our silver sponsors are Covent Garden Market, and Fanshawe Part-Time Studies and Learners. Our bronze sponsors are M&P, ManagePoint Technologies, and WFCU Credit Union. Our community supporter is Bell Canada. Our media sponsor is London Inc. And last, and certainly but not least, we would like to acknowledge our principal sponsor for this morning's events, Labatt, who we will hear from shortly. So let's show our gratitude and let all of our sponsors know how much we support them bringing this event to all of you today. And lastly, there is a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes into the mayor's address today. And so let's show our gratitude for the mayor's staff in preparing him for his address this morning. And thank you for your excellent support for the City of London and the mayor today. And now I would like to introduce the President and CEO of our Ontario Chamber of Commerce, Dan Tisch.
Well, thank you so much, Rhonda, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What an incredible turnout. This is among the largest chamber events that I've had the privilege of attending in the year that I've been in this role, so congratulations. What a remarkable achievement for the London Chamber and for the business community, and a testament to your partnership with your local government partners. So for me, I mentioned I've been in the job for a year, just to introduce myself briefly, we have 150 chambers in every corner of Ontario that altogether add up to 60,000 members. That's 60,000 businesses. So as you can imagine, for me, it's like joining a very large and very diverse family. Now, this is something I'm used to. I'm an immigrant to Canada. I came as a very small boy with my parents. I grew up in Toronto with a Jewish dad and a Latina mom. And as you may know, if you know anything about these cultures, these are not cultures that are shy, right, or unexpressive. And so in our household, growing up, no emotion was ever unexpressed. No grievance was ever unaired, right? And so that's a little bit like working with this diverse coalition. But as I went on to work in government at the federal level, and later as a business owner of a small business that became a medium-sized business, my parents' early experiences, like so many of you, I'm sure, who've seen newcomers to Canada struggle and strive and ultimately achieve, that inspired in me a commitment not just to prosperity, but to prosperity that's inclusive and that's sustainable. And I've been so inspired by how deeply the Ontario Chamber community is driven by that same purpose. And in fact, the last time I was in London, it was to meet with Graham and his team and other Southwestern Ontario chambers to talk about that and how we can do better, how we can bring this purpose to life together. And as I was watching Graham and Rhonda speak, I couldn't help but notice these three words on the sign behind me now, right? Connect, empower, and advocate. And those words are so powerful in exemplifying and summarizing what we do as chambers. And I'm struck right now about the moment we're living in Canada's economy today, just about how essential those three words are. Because if we do those things well, we achieve something else. We achieve mobilization of business in pursuit of change in our cities, in our country, in our society, in our world. And we saw the importance of this during the pandemic, and we really see it right now with the existential threat that's represented by the Trump trade tariffs. And I've been spending a lot of time lately, as you can imagine, speaking to our Premier, to the other leaders, to Ontario's representatives in the US, to the CEOs of the 8 state chambers that border Ontario. And I think at the moment, we've got 3 big imperatives. First, we have to show our strength and the willingness to use it, because we in Ontario, in Canada, we have the resources and the know-how that America needs and the world needs. We have to remember that. Second, we have to address our vulnerabilities. That means dismantling interprovincial trade barriers. It means looking at the regulations that hold business back, having a more competitive business environment, investing in infrastructure and communities. The way I frame it, if it's going to get rough, Canada has to get buff. That is our challenge right now. And third, we have to present a better alternative to our American partners to tariffs and trade wars, because doing business with Canada is so much smarter than doing business with China. And I think that plays to a critical strategic imperative that America faces and that North America faces right now. So that's why the Ontario Chamber is, in the days ahead, we're launching an Ontario Business and Trade Leadership Coalition. It's sort of part war room and part think tank, and we're bringing together leaders from affected industries and industries that can be strategically valuable to Ontario's position and Canada's position to bring strategic recommendations to government and also to individual businesses as well. So to summarize, I think, in terms of where we're going this year and what you'll hear from us, is there are 4 big themes around our advocacy and around our recommendations. The first, as I already mentioned, a competitive business environment. The second, strong and sustainable infrastructure. The third is a skilled and inclusive workforce. And the fourth is healthy communities. And I really want to say just how essential the London Chamber has been as a leader in our province, in our country, and a partner to us at the Ontario Chamber in advocating for solutions to the intersecting challenges of homelessness and addictions and mental health. That is so important because these aren't just social challenges, these are economic challenges. They affect our businesses, they affect our workforce, they affect our customers. We see this in the streets of Ontario communities every single day. And so it's not just the right thing to do in addressing these challenges, it's the smart thing to do as well. And that's why we're advocating for investments in housing and healthcare and support services. And finally, it's why we also believe that healthy communities must include healthy municipalities. And that is, a point I made when I had the privilege of addressing the AMO conference in Ottawa last year. That's why I think it's so important that you in London have such a strong partnership with your mayor and your council, and why I look forward to hearing from Mayor Josh Morgan later this morning. So just to wrap up, I just want to close by saying there's never been, in my view, a more essential time for you to be a member of the London Chamber of Commerce, and by extension, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. And I say this for 3 reasons. First, it's because businesses right now, more than ever, we need to support one another and learn from one another. That is job 1. Second, when we stand together in our conversations with government, we are a movement that's incredibly wise to heed and incredibly difficult to ignore. And I think that's because we don't just represent big business, we don't just represent small business, we represent all business. All business in every economic sector and in every community in Ontario. And so that is a really powerful movement that you and I are part of. And finally, it's about leadership, because the Chamber Network is for those who are leaders in their businesses and communities today or aspire to be leaders tomorrow. That's who we're for. That's who you are in being part of this organization. And that is why, in times that are unstable and challenging and a little scary at times, I remain fundamentally optimistic, because the last few weeks have actually united Canadians more than any time I've seen in many years, right? Because we have the assets the world needs, and if we combine those assets and our talent and the right strategy, we can turn that into an enduring competitive advantage. So it's kind of like a wake-up call to business and government, and together we have to answer it. So thank you so much for having me here today. And my final duty is to pass the floor and the mic to Hannah Love, who is the Senior Director of Communications at Labatt and an incredibly generous sponsor and a supporter of business across Ontario. Hannah, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dan, and good morning, everybody. It's my great pleasure to be here with you today on behalf of Labatt Breweries of Canada. So I know many of you will have heard from us before. We've been here for 178 years, and we're going to be here for 178 more, so you're going to be hearing a lot of the... Thank you. London is always at the heart of Labatt. It's where we started, and it's where we continue to make beers that Canadians love day to day, from Budweiser to Busch. In fact, 40% of all the beer we brew in Canada is brewed right here at the Forks of the Thames. We're a national business, but with local roots, and our London roots have made us who we are today. We made a big bet on London over the past 20 years. We've invested over $80 million. We've expanded production here. We've seen an additional 4 tanks on our site down at Simcoe. You might have seen those coming through town. We're very sorry about the disruption. I'll say it once. We said it once, we'll say it again. But we're making a big bet, and we're upscaling our production. And in fact, as a shout out to our past, the first beer brewed in those tanks was actually Labatt 50. So our business is powered by London, and it's powered by Londoners and their families. It has been for centuries. And in some cases, that tradition goes back generations. While we're proud of our history, we're also focused on the future, moving forward and continuing to lead as a local business while staying true to what matters most, our people and to this city. So before I introduce the Mayor, a big thank you to Graham Henderson and the Chamber. Thank you for your leadership and your continued support of all the businesses you see here today, and to our business too. You and your team do a great job in ensuring that the business community in London thrives and keeps moving forward, and we really do value that. So our founder, John Kinder Labatt, as you well know, Graham, was one of the founding members of the London Chamber back in 1857, so we do have another great legacy to honour in that space. And finally, it's my great pleasure to now introduce today's main attraction. So His Worship, the Mayor, Josh Morgan. Everybody in the room knows the Mayor's credentials, his achievements, and his unwavering commitment to the City of London. And we at Labatt are very aware and value the leadership he brings to this community. But with leadership comes responsibility, and it's apparent to all that the Mayor shoulders these responsibilities with vigour and dedication. In addition to his role as Mayor, he's also chair of the Big City Mayors Caucus, sits on the boards of the London Police Services, Western University, London Economic Development Corporation, RBC Place, and Tourism London. I'm glad I wrote that down, because that's a long list. That is heavy shoulders to bear indeed. And we all know that he's also a devoted and active husband and a father of four. So please join me in welcoming His Worship, Mayor Josh Morgan.
Well, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's a privilege to stand before you here at RBC Place, which has not only provided us with this beautiful space, but also a wonderful breakfast to start the day. I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Board of Directors of the London Chamber of Commerce and Graham Henderson for your leadership and dedication in organizing this event. To my colleagues on London City Council, senior leadership team, and the incredible staff who tirelessly work every day to serve our community, thank you. I am so proud to work with each of you. I also wanted to recognize that as I was gathering beforehand, and I shouldn't be ad-libbing this early in the speech, but there are so many elected officials here, whether they're former mayors, current mayors, wardens, city councilors, representatives from Indigenous communities. There are people who have devoted their lives to public service in this room, past and present, and I wanted to take a moment to recognize your presence today and thank you for your incredible public service that you have given or continue to give today. We really appreciate all that you do for our community and communities in Southwestern Ontario. I know both former Mayor DeSico and former Mayor Holder are here, so you know what it's like to stand on this stage, and I should not be ad-libbing this early on, and I see Ed shaking his head. And to those in this room and those watching remotely, community leaders, business owners, educators, healthcare professionals, entrepreneurs, tradespeople, and everyone who contribute to the vibrant fabric of London, you are the heartbeat of our city. As we reflect this morning on where we are, we need to look ahead at where we're going. And I want you to feel a sense of ownership in London's story, because it's your story, the story of a people who refuse to give up, people who believe in the power of community, and people who dream boldly about what is possible. Together, we're writing the next chapter, and I could not be more excited about what lies ahead. We find ourselves now at the midpoint of this council term, but it's not just a midpoint, it's an inflection point. This is the moment where resolve is tested, where ambitious, bold visions collide with real-world complexities, and where action, decisive collective action, becomes the only path forward. Yes, we're driving towards solutions, but the issues we're tackling in London are so big and so complex, the best metric, at least for now, is progress. So let me take a few moments to reflect on that progress, starting with homelessness, mental health, and addictions. The longer it persists, the more it becomes a challenge that tests not only the depth of our compassion, but also the strength of our commitment. These are complex crises, and while it's not something we can solve overnight, we are seeing undeniable progress. 2 years ago on this stage, I had the privilege of announcing that a private donor had committed $25 million to support our Made in London solution. Since then, the Fund for Change, administered by the London Community Foundation, has raised another $12.6 million thanks to contributions from Londoners, matched dollar for dollar by the donor, and that means we have more than $37 million in total. Yes. No other city in Canada can say they've done this. Quite frankly, it's remarkable. But of course, it's not just about money. It's actually about results. And time again, I get people asking me, what's happened to that money? Why aren't you using that money? Well, let me tell you, that money is being used. It is changing lives, and it is saving lives. Donations to the Fund for Change, along with support from London City Council, local developers, provincial and federal governments, have now helped launch 2 hubs, one operated by Atlosa and the other by Youth Opportunities Unlimited. In addition, the Fund for Change has also committed a mix of capital and operating cost for 2 separate highly supportive housing developments totaling almost 100 units. Now, you've heard a lot about hubs over the last 2 years, and for good reason, but we cannot overstate the importance of highly supportive housing. Look at House of Hope on Dundas. It's operated by London Cares with the support from London Health Sciences Centre. And for just over a year, it has been home to 56 people who were previously on the streets living with the most complex of health needs. 1 year later, 98% of those residents have not returned to camping or sleeping rough. And 93% have not experienced an overdose, where previously some of those individuals required weekly overdose interventions within the community. But remember, these just aren't stats or numbers. These are people. Take Deborah, for example. She found herself homeless after a difficult divorce led to financial instability. Before moving into House of Hope, in just a 2-month period, Deborah visited the emergency room 17 times and spent 12 days in hospital as an inpatient. After moving into supportive housing, she hasn't had a single inpatient stay and has visited the ER just once. Another resident, a senior tenant, had struggled with alcohol consumption so severe it led to repeated hospitalizations. Thanks to the support he's received, he's been in recovery for 10 months, managing his health effectively and living a life free of substance dependency. These stories aren't outliers, and they're not one-offs. This is what happens almost every single time when those experiencing chronic homelessness with complex medical needs are provided with stable housing with wraparound service supports. For me, that is hugely significant. Unlike where we started 2 years ago, this is no longer a question of what works or what we do. We actually have those answers. It's now a question of funding. We need more highly supportive housing, more treatment options, more rehab facilities. And while we've proven we're capable of paying for more than our fair share, we cannot expand these facilities to the level that's required without additional help from the provincial and federal governments. But make no mistake, we are incredibly grateful for the supports we have received thus far. And we are working hard to provide more evidence that our approach is one worth expanding here in London and beyond. Look at the Ontario government's $378 million plan to open 19 homeless and addiction recovery treatment centres across Ontario. The Premier and the Health Minister both publicly acknowledged London as a model for the Heart Hub system. Based on that, I am absolutely confident that we will be successful in landing one of these facilities as part of an application led by CMHA. This Heart Hub would be operational by the spring of this year, but we are not stopping there. Next month, 39 units with supports will open at YOU's brand new Jones Place at Richmond and York. Later this year, work will be completed at Elmwood Place near the Coves, resulting in 50 additional highly supportive housing units. A project made possible by Tricar, Auburn Group, Drulo Holdings, Sifton Properties, Indewell, the Fund for Change, and the City of London. We've also had several expressions of interest from community partners interested in operating new hubs, each with a mix of up to 35 transitional and respite spaces, and a requirement that they be located along transit corridors or arterial roads. More information about those will be known in the coming weeks. And lastly, I am very pleased to announce that the City of London will be spearheading a partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare and Homes for Heroes to establish a supervised village of 20 tiny homes on the grounds of Parkwood Institute. This site will accommodate homeless veterans within our community, providing them with the necessary counseling and life skills and administrative supports for full reintegration into our communities. Homes for Heroes boasts a 97% success rate, and we could not be more pleased to tap into our committed funds from senior levels of government to help our veterans to whom we owe so much. Compassion must remain the cornerstone of these efforts, and our commitment to that is unwavering. But let me be equally clear. Blatant public drug use and violent behaviors cannot and must not be tolerated. So after considerable consultation, I can confirm that a new open-air public space drug strategy will soon be implemented by the London Police Service. Chief Trong will share more details in the coming weeks, but understand this is not about criminalizing homelessness, nor is it about arresting our way out of a crisis. There are ways to deal with public drug use that do not involve throwing people in jail or saddling them with criminal records. This is about ensuring public spaces remain safe and accessible for all. To that end, I can also announce that the expansion of last year's community outreach and support team, better known as COAST, will be extended for the entire duration of 2025. This involves police, mental health professionals, and representatives from St. Joe's and LHSC working together in support of those in crisis on our streets. And in addition, a new initiative, one that sees public health nurses paired with police on mental health calls, will be launched this spring. This balance between compassion and accountability is not easy to achieve, but it is absolutely essential. It's not about one ideological approach over another. It's not about left or right. It's all about moving forward. And together we must forge a path forward that holds space for empathy and understanding while setting clear boundaries that preserve the peace and enjoyment of our public spaces. Now, creating a community where compassion and safety coexist is not just about addressing immediate challenges. It's about building a stronger, more vibrant city for the future. Nowhere is this more vital than right here in the heart of our city. The downtown core is more than a collection of buildings and streets. It's the cultural and economic heartbeat of London. It's where businesses grow, where art and innovation thrive, and where people from all walks of life come together. Revitalizing our downtown is central to creating a city that feels alive and full of possibility. Decades ago, our downtown found itself in a similar state of transition. At that crossroads, we didn't abandon the core. We chose to think big. We rebuilt its foundation brick by brick. Imagine London today without Canada Life Place, Covent Garden Market, the main branch of the library, or the Dundas Flex Street. These generational investments transformed the heart of our city and set the stage for new opportunities. Now, we must act with the same boldness for the next generation. First and foremost, it needs to be a place where people feel safe and welcome. This starts with a renewed commitment to public safety. In addition to the measures I detailed, you will also notice an increased police visibility throughout our city over the coming year, but especially in the downtown core and Old East Village. These actions on their own won't fix everything all at once, but they will undeniably help make the area safer. And I have full confidence in the men and women of the London Police Service and the leadership of Chief Trong. Why? Just look at what has happened in less than 12 months. For the first time in 4 years, we've started seeing a decrease in Code 1, 2, and 3 response times. And that downward trend will only accelerate in the months to come. There's also been a 48% reduction in gun violence compared to the previous year. And perhaps most impressive, the largest year-over-year reduction in the Crime Severity Index in all of Canada. This measures both the volume and severity of crime, and for the first time in 10 years, London's rate has fallen below the national average. Not only that, but our 14% reduction comes at a time when cities like Toronto, Hamilton, Ottawa, and Windsor have all seen their crime severity indexes go up. Beyond enhancing public safety, we are keenly aware that there is too much vacant commercial office space in the downtown. You'll remember at last year's State of the City, I announced plans for an office residential conversion program. We've been able to move on that, thanks in part to the Housing Accelerator Fund, which MP Peter Fragiskatos, as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, was instrumental in delivering to London. Since this time last year, 109 units have been approved for conversion, representing the transformation of well over 100,000 square feet of unused commercial office space. And more announcements, I can't spoil them today, will be coming and happening on that front in the coming weeks. In addition, I am announcing today that we're going to have a new incentive program coming, one that builds on the office residential conversions. This time, we're expanding our focus to commercial occupancy. As part of this new program, financial assistance will be made available to help cover startup and renovation costs for eligible businesses looking to activate vacant spaces in key areas. Applicants can receive grant funding to support projects that align with targeted uses, such as restaurants, arts and culture, tourism-oriented services, or even a grocery store. Yeah, people love grocery stores. These initiatives are by no means the only things we're doing, or will do, to support the downtown area. But they should stand as proof of our absolute commitment to the core. And so too should work being done on a new downtown master plan. A modern plan that recognizes the challenges of today and the opportunities that we have as one of Canada's fastest growing cities. Now, to unlock our potential, we need the tools and resources to match our ambition. And that is why I am calling for a new municipal growth framework from our provincial and federal partners. We need a new deal for London. We simply cannot build a 21st century city on a 19th century funding formula. We are making unprecedented investments and commitments towards revitalizing our core, addressing homelessness, enhancing public safety. These are critically necessary, but they have also placed extreme pressure on property taxes, not just here, but in all municipalities across Ontario. Unlike other levels of government, city councils cannot run deficits. Every single municipal budget is a balanced budget. What's more, for every tax dollar collected in this country, municipalities receive just 9 cents. 9 cents on every dollar. That's despite the fact that we are responsible for 60% of the infrastructure in this country. The math just doesn't add up. And the property tax system is absolutely broken in this country. Think of it this way, and this is just one example. Right now, we are in the midst of a so-called 2-month tax holiday instituted by the Prime Minister just before Christmas. The cost of this tax holiday is well over $1 billion. Money the PM doesn't have, which means he's running deficits to cover the cost. Like I said, municipalities don't have that option. We're required to balance our books. And so while we're struggling to provide the basics, clean drinking water, public safety, garbage collection, parks and rec services, the federal government is giving tax breaks on things like PlayStations, Christmas decorations, and alcohol. You know, they enjoy the holiday while property taxpayers continue to deal with the hangover. It just doesn't make sense. And it should be clear that the time for a new funding framework is now. London, in partnership with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus, is ready to lead the charge and the call for this change. And we urge our provincial and federal counterparts to join us in creating a funding model that works for everyone. But in saying that, ratepayers in London cannot wait endlessly for relief. And that is why, in the coming days, I will be issuing a strong mayor direction to staff to begin work on crafting a series of recommendations that, if approved, will produce a property tax increase of under 5%. It will be my expectation that this will be prepared well in advance of the next annual budget update later this year, providing everyone with a clear picture of what type of cuts are required to reverse the trend of unsustainable property tax increases. We must decide together how much, where, and whether we are willing to make potentially painful sacrifices to ensure affordability while still delivering key services our city depends on. While we push for systemic change and fiscal fairness, we also recognize the importance of taking immediate action on the challenges our city faces today. One of the most pressing is housing. At the midpoint of this term of council, and especially over the last year, we have seen a remarkable shift in how we address London's housing needs. Bold decisions and innovative policies have positioned our city as a leader in tackling the housing crisis, not just in Ontario, but across Canada. Let me start with the most recent stats from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. London's total housing starts were up 101% year over year. And that puts us second in Ontario and third across Canada. That 101% increase is even more impressive when you see Toronto down 20%, Kitchener-Waterloo down 28%, and Hamilton down 29%. Consider this, at my first State of the City address, 2 years ago, City Council had approved 4,430 new housing units for the 2022 calendar year. The following year, that number climbed to 5,337 new units. But last year, it was 22,890 units of new housing, an all-time record for London. So how did we do this? A council that is absolutely committed to housing, an administration that has reimagined old ways of thinking, the strategic use of strong mayor powers, and a development community whose confidence in London has never wavered. Together, we have created a climate that makes London one of Canada's most desirable places to invest and build. Amongst these achievements is a landmark development, the largest housing project in London's history. Over the next 2 decades, the site at Oxford and Highbury will include the construction of 8,400 residential units, a mix of low, medium, and high density along with commercial space. And in addition to that largest development ever, we've also seen the official opening of London's new tallest building. At just over 40 stories, Old Oak's central high-rise at Fullerton and Talbot is a staggering symbol of the vibrant modern city we are building together. Meanwhile, York Developments expects to break ground this summer on even taller buildings, a pair of 43 and 53-story towers at the Forks of the Thames on King Street. But it's not just about individual projects. Last year, City Council also passed the most significant increase in as-of-right density zoning in 35 years. This foundational change will empower us to create more housing faster, remove unnecessary barriers to development, while maintaining the quality of life our residents deserve. Of course, our successes in developing housing would not be possible without strong partnerships, including those with the Ontario government and Minister Rob Flack. He was there when London secured $23.7 million in provincial funding to expand our sewer capacity in the downtown, which will enable us to support an additional 17,500 units of residential development in the core. But we're not slowing down this year either. For one, we're moving forward on converting city-owned surface parking lots in the downtown core and core areas into high-density residential projects. As mentioned in last year's address, these sites would be offered under the condition that existing parking be maintained or even expanded. And 1 year later, we've identified 5 city-owned parking lots in the downtown area to start with, and requests for proposals will be issued next month for 2 of them, one at 84 Horton and the other at 199 Rideout. But as we build a city for the future, we must address the challenges that come with growth, particularly the need for a transportation system that supports our evolving city. Last year, we tendered a record-breaking $250 million worth of infrastructure investments, and these projects will advance a combined total of more than 90 kilometers of road improvements and 7 kilometers of new sidewalks. We finally reached the point, too, where there's now more rapid transit construction behind us than ahead of us. So far, over 51,000 square meters of asphalt have been removed across the Wellington Gateway and East London Link projects, and all of that will be fully recycled for use in new roadways in keeping with the Climate Emergency Action Plan and our waste management goals. We've also completed 2 once-in-a-generation projects. The Adelaide Underpass has eliminated long rail delays caused by trains and provided better accommodation for emergency vehicles and all forms of traffic. And meanwhile, the new Victoria Street Bridge on Rideout creates a much-needed improved connection for all modes of transportation between Old South and the downtown. Beyond that, and thinking more broadly, the ongoing development of London's Mobility Master Plan outlines a long-term vision for how we get around our city for the next 25 years. As the city grows, managing congestion must be a key priority. While transforming the way that Londoners move around the city, we're also creating the conditions for a thriving economy. According to StatsCan, over the last 4 months, our economy has added more than 5,000 new jobs. Despite the risks associated with the weak Canadian dollar and global economic uncertainty, we remain a highly desirable location for businesses to invest and locate. One such example I'm proud of to announce this morning is the forthcoming arrival of Inno Foods. They're a healthy snack food manufacturer with multiple products available at Costco, Walmart, and elsewhere. Working closely with the LEDC, they've chosen London as their first site for expansion outside of BC. And they'll soon be building a new facility in Innovation Park, employing up to 90 people in Phase 1 and doubling that workforce in Phase 2. Meanwhile, Italian pasta maker Andriani is nearing completion of this year's their very first North American facility, and it's right here in London. Expansions are also critical, like at Copa Inc., a family-run gelato business located in the east of London. Over the last year, they've grown from 12 to 30 employees and are at the early stages of a significant expansion, which would see the current workforce more than triple. London tech companies continue to receive global recognition, including Digital Extremes, which recently signed a new 10-year lease at City Plaza. And let me tell you about Frontline Medical Technologies. This London-based firm was listed on Time Magazine's Best Inventions of 2024 for the development of a device that can stop life-threatening bleeding on our roads, in our delivery rooms, and even on battlefields. Meanwhile, and in a more general sense, we're working hard to ensure London is well-positioned to address the impending shortage of skilled labor. With the assistance of the workforce development arm of the London Economic Development Corporation, you can expect to see new strategies and stronger partnerships with Fanshawe College, local secondary school programs, and collaborations with organizations like LIUNA. I also want to talk briefly about the looming threat of tariffs coming from the Trump administration. In my role as chair of the Big City Mayors Caucus, which represents the 23 largest cities in Canada, I've reached out to the Premier and the Prime Minister to offer our assistance as cities. We know individuals and businesses in London will be significantly impacted by any disruptions to trade. This is no time to cross our fingers. It's no time to hide our heads in the sand. All municipalities have a role to play in helping prevent an economic crisis on both sides of the border. And I want you to know that I am actively engaged on that file in my position as Big City Mayors Caucus Chair. We will work with mayors of American cities and through our provincial and federal governments to protect jobs here in London and throughout this country. London is open for business, but just like Canada, London is not for sale. As we build a city that is economically vibrant, we are equally committed to fostering meaningful relationships that strengthen our community. This is the spirit of connection that was exemplified last year when London achieved a historic milestone in truth and reconciliation, participating in the first ever council-to-council meeting with Oneida Nation of the Thames. The meeting focused on building stronger partnerships and addressing shared priorities, including housing, economic development, and public safety. It wasn't just a symbolic gesture. It serves as a foundation for lasting collaboration and understanding. And I know, and I spoke to him earlier, Chief Cornelius is here today from Oneida. Chief, I want to thank you personally for our engagements, for your friendship, for the travel. We got to drive to Toronto together for a couple of hours and have a great talk. Your leadership and the way that you have inspired me in the ways that we can work together, in the things that we can learn from you on how to run a fast-growing city is something that I cannot thank you enough for. Thank you. While we work to build a stronger, more equitable city, it is important to reflect on what makes London truly special. Beyond the policies and investments, London is a city full of life, culture, and creativity, a place where we celebrate our achievements and come together to enjoy all that our community has to offer. One example of this is the Neighbourhood Parks Improvement Fund, bringing forward much-needed upgrades to as many as 23 parks throughout London. This is above and beyond all the improvements that are already identified and included in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Planned upgrades include new enhanced pickleball courts, tennis courts, cricket batting cages, playground equipment, outdoor exercise facilities, and basketball courts. But our progress doesn't stop at parks. Our culture and tourism sectors are also thriving. Overall, tourism spending in London was up 11% last year, surpassing $1 billion. Clear evidence that people are discovering what makes London such a fantastic place to visit. That's the tourism folks clapping, I'm sure. And great job. The tourism has done a great job. London was also recognized by the Canadian music industry as the 2024 Music City of the Year. And we proudly hosted the UNESCO Cities of Music meetings last year, which welcomed representatives from over 30 international cities to London. And after several weeks of previews, the brand new $23 million Children's Museum has its grand opening this weekend at 100 Kellogg Lane. And later this spring, London will officially become home to the first Hard Rock Hotel in all of Canada. This 164-room development will push the total investment at 100 Kellogg to more than $100 million. Meanwhile, plans are in place and in the advanced stages for a significant expansion of Ronald McDonald House of Southwestern Ontario, one that would more than double their capacity to assist children and families who need it most. Thank you for all that you do. I know they're here today. And make no mistake, our reputation on the world stage continues to grow. Hollywood stars like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Luke Wilson, and Gary Sinise chose London as the backdrop for major productions last year. Thanks to the work of Film London, we've seen a surge in film activity, including projects with Netflix and Amazon Prime. And already this year, we have commitments for 2 more TV series and 4 more feature films to be shot right here in our city. Meanwhile, institutions like Western University, Huron, King's, and Fanshawe College continue to play vital roles in education, research, and community development, shaping London's future for generations to come. These stories remind us of why London is such a special place. Together, we are building a city where families can grow, communities can connect, and opportunities are abundant. As I said earlier, London is at an inflection point. We have choices to make, not just as a city council, but as a community. This is not about picking sides in an ideological sense. It's not about left versus right. It's all about moving forward. Progress is the quiet hero of great achievement. Too often we focus on the final solution or the end result, forgetting the value of each step that carries us there. True change is not born in an instant. It's built over time, shaped by persistence and strengthened by effort. Real change comes not from grand gestures, but the steady, unrelenting force of a community that does not give up, and that is London. I know progress can feel slow when our needs remain urgent. But here in London, we don't wait for perfect solutions or final fixes to light the way. We take bold steps together towards a brighter future and a brighter tomorrow. In our streets and in our shelters, in our neighborhoods and networks, in our places of work, in every home we build, and every life we lift, we are proving that persistence fuels progress. Let us remember, tackling homelessness is not just about housing the unhoused. It's about fostering hope and humanity. Public safety is not about patrolling our streets. It's about building trust and community. Affordability is not mere a matter of metrics. It's about ensuring that every Londoner can live with dignity. Together, we are the architects of advancement, the champions of change. London is not only our home, it represents our shared future. So let's face that future with courage, shape it with determination, and celebrate it with pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We're now going to begin our fireside chat. And to accomplish that, I'd like to invite Katie Wilhelm to the stage. She's probably well known to you. She's an entrepreneur, a creator, and we're very, very proud to have her as a board member of the Chamber of Commerce. So Katie, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Wilhelm, and I'm a board member of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm very proud to be a board member of the Chamber of Commerce. As I've heard over and over this morning, our perspective to business often is people first. And that makes me proud to be with all of you in this room. Thank you for sharing your State of the City address with us this morning. So many important topics to chat about, and I want to start with one that's super near and dear to my heart. A place that I spend a lot of time working, shopping, and playing, the downtown core. You said London's downtown office vacancy rate is projected to hit 33% this year. What is the city doing to ensure that downtown remains productive and viable to business? And we heard about the commercial space subsidy. I wonder if we could talk about that.
Yeah, so we recognize that the downtown is the heart of our city, right? A vibrant, thriving downtown is an economic engine for all of the things that we need to do. So as you heard today, I mentioned a number of the things we're doing. Office residential conversion program. We're bringing in a new incentive program to assist those who want to fill those commercial spaces. That'll go to council in the coming months, and we'll be able to debate and approve that. But also, despite the challenges, we have this surge of investment in the downtown core. And I think, when you look 10 years, 15 years out and you look back, the amazing amount of residential development that is occurring in the core is going to be a driver for the future. Feet on the street, people being able to walk out their front door and go to restaurants and support businesses is something that is very critical. We still need people to come downtown. We need people to return to work. We need feet on the street. But in the long run, putting more residential development in the core is actually a really critical strategy. The other thing that I do too, and I know that there are difficult challenges in parts of the core of our city, but we do ourselves no favors by talking about how bad things might be on one given day or another. If we want people to come and invest and thrive in the core, there are positive, amazing stories happening. There are things that are getting better. There are investments that are being made. There are stores that are actually opening. And we need to actually start to talk about how great downtown London is to come and visit, the amazing things that are happening in our public spaces, the amazing things that are happening, the awesome restaurants, the places to visit. And if we don't start to tell those stories, how are we going to attract people downtown? So I'm someone who becomes a cheerleader for that. I know David's here too, and David cheerleads about the downtown all the time. Listen, this is something we've got to continue to talk about. This is a great place to be. When you walk out of this building, you could today go to a great restaurant and have a great dinner. You can go shop in the market. You should see store. You could see a Knights game tonight. Like, I don't know if they're playing tonight. Sean will know. Like, this is a great part of the city. And the more we talk down about it, the more people will want to come here. So let's do the work, but let's celebrate the great things that are in our downtown core.
Absolutely. Our downtown is worth celebrating. There's a lot of people putting in a lot of work to do a lot of great programming in the downtown area, and I'm very proud of it. Talking about an issue prevalent in the downtown, which I like to refer to as houselessness. You talked about a lot of the construction downtown being focused on high-density housing. How can the city use zoning bylaws to encourage businesses to operate in the core?
It's not really about zoning bylaws. I mean, zoning can determine the type of use that can be put in place. But I think there's a few things that the city needs to do to help encourage businesses to come here. First, we talked about the incentive programs that we could bring forward, and that's part of it. But the pieces that I talked about public safety, like people don't like going places where they may not have the perception of feeling safe, right? And whether it's safe or not, perception matters. And so the increased police presence in the downtown core, the positioning of the Foot Patrol office, the ability to expand that, the ability for businesses, if they do have a challenge, to get responses in a reasonable time frame. We talk about that we made a big investment in police. I talked today about how we now see that investment starting to turn the corner. Public safety in the downtown is a really critical piece of creating the climate for good business investment. But it's also, it's also about, like I said, growing the population downtown, encouraging people to come back. When you come downtown, tell your friends and tell the stories about how great it's been. So we got a number of things on the plate. This is one of the most complex issues that we could deal with. It's an issue that other mayors struggle with in their cities as well. But as I talk to people in the downtown core, they may not say things are great or perfect, but they do feel a sense of optimism about the direction that we're heading. And our city council is absolutely committed to not turning our back on the core, continuing to work with the BIA and the businesses downtown to ensure that we're doing the things we can. The new downtown master plan will be incredibly critical to carve out the path for the next 25 to 30 years. But we know we need to do some things immediately in the short term, and so I announced a series of things today. There's going to be some other quick start actions that staff bring forward, and those things combined hopefully will help create a continued and ideally thriving business environment and growth in the downtown core.
I think that we all have spent a good amount of time downtown, and we can all find something to celebrate about that. When I think about downtown and I think about safe and well communities, I have to mention an area of people that is disproportionately affected. And as an Indigenous person, I'd love to speak a bit about our Indigenous community. And you referenced in your speech the historic meeting that took place, the council-to-council meeting between London City Council and Oneida Nation of the Thames Council. Could we chat a little bit more about some of the work that's taken place with regard to reconciliation?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to. So first off, I want to recognize I appreciate that Chief Cornelius is here, and I talked about our engagement with the Oneida Nation of the Thames and the historic meeting we had. And I want to emphasize again that meeting was about actually getting things done. And there's something to be said about the chief and I can talk on a regular basis, but getting our council members together to make connections, to get to know each other. When we did that meeting, we did it at Oneida. It was great to go down to the space and see their facility and be present there. I've also got engagements with Chief Muskokoman, and we're talking about economic development opportunities and Chippewas and the opportunities that they have. Each nation wants to engage in a slightly different way, and out of respect for those relationships, we do things a little bit differently. But given he's here, and I mentioned it briefly, just the chief and I, we went to Winnipeg for a national Indigenous Reconciliation Circle. And it was one of the few times that I got to sit, mayors sat with local Indigenous leaders who traveled together with them to this space. I think we sat, Chief, I think it was like 4 hours. We went around the circle. It was one of the few times that in that 4 hours, I think I spoke for about 6 minutes. And the rest was listening to stories, to perspectives, to what's going well, to what's not, to how we can work together. And so, Graham said at the start, sure, you can do a land acknowledgement, and we do at the start of every council, but these engagements, these personal connections, the listening, the learning, talking to the chief about, listen, you got a fast-growing city. We know how to care for the land. We've been doing it long before London was London. So in a fast-growing city, there's a lot you can learn from us about how to do this sustainably, how you can make it make sense. And so, I appreciate that guidance. And so for me, reconciliation is not the things that we might do formally. It's also the personal engagements and the personal connections and the personal learnings that we can get from those who have had knowledge passed down for generations on how to do things a different way than maybe, I grew up thinking about. So.
Thank you for mentioning the personalized approach. We are all very different and separate in First Nations. So I think this is really important in moving those conversations forward. Speaking about conversations, and sometimes really hard ones to have, the conversations we've been having over the past couple of days have to do with the newly elected President Trump and the threat of tariffs as high as 25% on Canadian goods. What role can Canadian cities play, like London, in responding to these threats?
Yeah, so let me share some information. I think I'm in a unique position here, and I never, when I got elected mayor, I never thought that I would get this so deep into international relations. But I said in the speech, make no mistake, cities and municipalities have a really critical role to play in supporting the federal government and the premiers and the work they're doing. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to talk with David Patterson, who is Premier's Ford's representative in Washington, and he spoke to me for about a half an hour from the embassy. And I was talking to him about, what can cities do? And I've talked to the Premier on the phone about how we can play a support role. Municipalities are not looking to step on the toes of what is a provincial and national strategy. But we've got personal city-to-city connections. We got businesses in our cities who have supply chain connections. We got Chamber of Commerce who knows, economic development corporations. We know where we're vulnerable. We know where our partners, we know where we're selling to, where they're vulnerable. Because remember, tariffs are paid by Americans, right? And part of the insight that David gave me when I spoke to him is, he's like, you got to get some Americans talking to Americans about tariffs aren't a great thing, right? They're going to hurt American cities and counter tariffs. And when we think about the way that North America has been able to thrive and integrate, it does no good to shoot ourselves in the foot and tear down that integration and the work that we've done. And I think cities and those connections that I have with mayors in really critical areas, particularly in Republican districts, are really critical connections, and the 23 other large city mayors all have their personal connections, and we're ready to leverage those to work with our communities and to support a strategy to be very active in this like we haven't before, because it will be on the ground and in our communities that we feel the brunt of any sort of economic trade war or trade disruption. And so we cannot stand by and hope it works out. We have to be an active partner, and we have to be on a team with a team approach. No winging it or going out on our own. Let's get our strategy together. Let's play the critical role we can play, and let's support Team Canada on this, because we've been given a reprieve without having, through all of the executive orders, not having this layered on us yet. And we have a runway to have those really important conversations, and I think we have to have all hands on deck for that.
It's optimistic to hear of the United Front, and I said to someone earlier this morning, optimism is my word of the year, and I find optimism in our opportunity to create. As a creative person, we're always able to create something new.
I want to say too, this is a very unifying thing, right? When you get an existential threat, we got the Bloc Québécois talking about Canada and how important it is, and no, seriously though, we got premiers and others who may not have disagreed in the past. We got federal and provincial governments working together. This is something where you set aside your differences when you're a family here, and you figure out how to protect all of us in our country. And frankly, and I'll say this, our American partners too. They're going to hurt from this too. There's going to be no win across North America if we don't go down this path. And so, it's really it's really interesting to see the unity that this brought. And I honestly think it is a foundation for the types of things that we have the challenges we have to meet as municipalities. Being able to engage and be on a team with the premiers and the federal government in this way where we're working together, I think lays the groundwork for really collaborative discussions on the other difficult challenges that we have to face that aren't tariffs, that we've got to work out through the different orders of government. So this is a really great opportunity. It's not great that there's a threat out there, but a great opportunity to work together, to build connections, and to maybe solve some of the other problems that we know are out there and on the streets in our community, whether they be economic, whether they be homelessness, or whether they be others. We're building a much stronger foundation of collaboration through dealing with this external threat across orders of government like I haven't seen before.
Big topic. Big topics. And at this point, I think I want to bring it back home. I have some questions about London, colloquially known as the Forest City. Does London, what do you think? Does London as a city have a cohesive identity? If so, what is it? And if not, how can we develop one?
I think London struggles with this because, and I'll tell you why, because we're hard on ourselves, right? No, we're really hard on ourselves. When the mayor of Ottawa, Mark and I joke back and forth, he came down. His son was playing ball in Dorchester. He stayed right in the downtown city. He goes for jogs every day, and he said to me, he's like, "Wow, you guys, you don't have a really big homeless problem here like we do." And I was like, "That's not how we talk about it. We got a big problem, and we're working on it." And when you think about yourselves compared to other cities, like there are things that we're doing really well. And there's things that we need to work on. But where we're missing this and where our identity has shifted to is London has actually become now an influential player beyond our borders. We are well respected in Queen's Park. We are well respected in Ottawa. We are well respected by our peers and municipalities across this country. We got the Housing Accelerator Fund first year, and thanks to Peter and the work that he did on that, we're first. Prime Minister's here in our city announcing the first of this deal. We were one of the first to sign our provincial pledge. We had the Premier here giving us credit and talking about the ways that we're approaching homelessness and how they're investing almost $400 million in a similar approach, and they're on the verge of making announcements on where those facilities are going. That's our leadership. We actually have an identity now as a leader on critical issues. A city that says, when there's a problem, we don't just say, okay, well, maybe Hamilton will solve it and we can copy them. We're like, no, we're going to lean into it. We're going to rally as a community. We're going to work the problem. We're going to pitch solutions. We're going to try some things. Sometimes we're going to adjust along the way. But we are not afraid to try to be right in there and part of the solution, whether that's international trade or other. And I want to tell you, somehow, I'm only a mayor who's been a mayor for 2 years. Somehow, I am now the chair and the leader of the 23 largest cities in Canada. That didn't happen because of something I did. That happened because of something that everybody in this room did. That our city is bold, that it's respected, that we're actually trying things, that we're actually leading, and other cities and other leaders want us to be at the table and have a significant voice. They want us to be there and leading. That is London's identity, and we should be prepared to seize that. We're not a sleepy old retirement town anymore. We are a bold city of innovators, of people who lean into challenges and people who pitch solutions, whether that's in healthcare or tech or science or university or research or government or tackling challenges like homelessness or economic development or businesses. I mean, you've got the Ontario Chamber here. He's talking about how great our chamber is. Like, we are a leader in so many spaces. That's our identity, and it's far time we seize that and stop criticizing ourselves and stop thinking we got big problems. We got challenges, and we're going to meet them because that's what we do. Let's be proud of our city, and let's lean into this influence that we actually have, how people are looking to us for leadership, and let's actually provide that leadership for other municipalities, the province, and the country.
I'm proud of our leadership in these areas. I'm proud of your leadership in your areas of business as well. And I'm proud of our leadership in creativity. I'm proud of our UNESCO City of Music designation. It's a nice logo, right? I'll tell the designer. As a city known for its creative community, what role do you see the creative industry playing in shaping London's future?
Well, it's an economic driver, right? Make no mistake. The creative industry, City of Music, the film industry, everything I talked to, these are economic drivers, right? Yes, I got to say Schwarzenegger. I met him. Like, it's a thing. Some people like it, some people don't. But think about what actually happened there. People ask me, like, for his number. Like, he didn't give me his number. He doesn't was a 5-minute conversation. We mainly talked about him being a governor, and I was trying to get tips on governing. But think about what that does. A whole film crew coming here. They're here for weeks. They're coming in. They're eating at restaurants. This is an economic injection into our community. It puts our city on the map. One of the things he said to me was, I really like this place. This is a nice place to come. I might visit again, and I might tell some people, right? Having people come to our city for the creative arts and creative industries, having the UNESCO City of Music, having 35 different cities from across this country come here and experience our city, go back and say, yeah, I went to London, it was a pretty cool place. They got these beautiful natural heritage trails, they got this really cool ballpark downtown, like you should go visit sometime. All of a sudden we've created ourselves not just the economics of the people being here and spending money there, but the economics that's generated from tourism. There's a reason tourism's going up 11% and we're over $1 billion. People are actually coming here. We're hosting things. They're going back and they're talking about our city. And then other people are coming here and they're discovering what an amazing spot this is, right? Like, yeah, it's fun to go to Toronto and they got big theater and stuff, but it's crowded, it's congested. You can't get down the stupid Gardiner at all. Here, you can fly right into the London airport. You get downtown, you stay here, you can walk to most things, right? The Hard Rock Hotel, first one in Canada. That is going to be a massive, like people just go to those things because they're things. Like half of it's not even going to be about London for some of the international visitors. But while they're here, they're going to discover our city. And they're going to go back and they're going to talk about it. So UNESCO City of Music, the film industry, the art sector that we have, the way that we approach that, it is an economic driver for our city, and it already is paying dividends. It puts us on the map and it drives tourism and it drives civic pride. Like these are things that we get to be proud of when people come here.
Totally agreed. I look at your office and I look at the other councillors and I look at your office with such respect and awe. And I also see that you receive a lot of messaging online and commentary. And I just want to say there's no space for hate. We can criticize and hold accountable, but no space for hate. And I want to ask you, Mayor, how do you manage the challenges that come with serving as a mayor?
Well, you're right. Listen, I'm going to talk less about me for a second. I want to talk about public discourse. I was in Calgary at a meeting of the big city mayors and for the FCM. And I was talking to my colleagues in Quebec. And I want to tell you the way that public discourse has shifted and the vitriol that is thrown at people who are just trying to serve their community. There were over 700 municipal officials in Quebec that have either said they're not going to run or they've resigned because of the attacks and the hate. And they say, like, listen, there's a lot of things I can do. I could serve in business. I could go and work in other things. I'm not going to sign up for this. I'm not going to sign up for the hate and the vitriol. And where do we talk about fixing that? It talks about the way we talk about ourselves, right? We can disagree. I can disagree with other levels of government. We can disagree with each other on council, but we gotta show that we can do that in a way that is respectful, that sets a discourse level. Because there are a lot of people who are upset and angry, and in this world today, you can be angry, and then you know what you can do? You can pick up your phone and you can send an email, and no one should send an email in the moment they're angry. They should wait a few hours or later. Because I know what they look like. I get them. I keep a mean emails folder, and sometimes I look back on them. But for me, how do I handle that? Like, listen, we hold these offices. There's always going to be people who are upset with the office. Do I think people, if they say something mean, hate me personally? No, I know who I am. I know my character. I know the kind of dad I am. I know the kind of friend I am. My mom's here, so don't be mean. My mom's here. I know the kind of son I am. I know the person I am. And so, if people got a frustration, I get it, and I kind of want to help them, right? Because if they're that angry that they have to say something that mean, they're probably struggling with something that maybe we can help them with. So I try to lean into empathy and compassion in those moments, but I gotta tell you, like, the type of stuff that sometimes comes in that my colleagues have to deal with, like, no one who is working in a job environment should have to deal with some of the crap that people write in. Like, it wouldn't be tolerated in any of your businesses. It shouldn't be tolerated just because someone's an elected official. And every time someone says, I pay your salary so you've got to, I was like, well, It doesn't work that way. We're here to represent you. We're here to listen to you. You don't get to tell us what to do. We work with the community to decide how to move forward. And when you represent 440,000 people, the hardest part of this job is you don't all agree. It is. But every vote I got to do and every vote these guys got to do gets boiled down into a yes or no. And so if you think one thing and you think another thing, as soon as we vote, we've made you happy and you upset. So every time we cast a vote in those council chambers, tens of thousands of people like it and tens of thousands of people don't. That's the nature of the job. You got to deal with people who are upset because the public doesn't agree. We have choices to make. We have different ways that we can do things. And sometimes we're going to do things you like, and sometimes we're going to do things you don't. But each and every member of this council goes in that chamber and tries to make the best possible decision they can make with the information they have. And sometimes we get information 2 days later that you'd go back and say, wow, I would have voted differently on that. We do the best we can with limited information, and we got to boil it down into a yes or no. And that is a very difficult job to have, and I cannot say how proud I am to serve with people who choose to sign up to be in that environment and who do an excellent job of going through and making tough decisions. And again, we disagree sometimes, but at the end of the day, we try to make these collective decisions. We recognize that it's democracy, and it's a tough gig to have, but it's also one of those things where it is the best job you could ever have in the world. When I'm being extended here, but I want to say, when I go and speak to, say, a civics class, grade 5 civics class, and you get to talk about, the types of things that a city does, and you get to talk to young people, and they say, like, I'd like, to talk about, getting another swing in my park. And I'm like, we can do that. Like, we can talk about that. Like, and so counselors get emails written, because every time I go to a class, I was like, right, Lewis, right, Frank, right? They're your counselor. Go tell them you want to swing. They actually have that power. Like, and then you have young people believing, because they deliver. They'll go out, they'll write back, they'll engage, they'll call that kid, and they'll in most times make the change. You got a kid now believing that government can be a force for good. When you see that moment, like, it doesn't matter all the angry emails that come in, like, you know that you've got a job where you can actually make a difference in the lives of people, where you can actually make people see government in a different way, and where you get that, like, I believe that you can do something to help me. It's a powerful thing to have bestowed upon you, that someone believes you can help them. It's very humbling, but there's no other job. There's no other job like that. And so it's a power that our colleagues take very seriously, and they take every one of those engagements seriously, and we try every moment of every opportunity to try to inspire others to be part of civic government. Vote, be out there, call us, tell us when you don't like things, tell us when you do like things too, but be part of your civic government. Right? Like, I say to young people, I say to high school students, I was like, who do you want deciding what's in your park? Right? Older folks who don't use the park, or you? Right? Because you're gonna get to vote. Right? My daughter gets to vote in the next election. So, is she going to or not? Right? Have we inspired her to think that government can be a force for good, that if she votes, that we will make a difference? Like, that is a big part of our job, and that is the most rewarding part of having the privilege to be able to try to do that.
Thank you for speaking to young Londoners who might be looking to get engaged with the political process. I have one last question, and then we can wrap it up and get back to our busy days. What accomplishment are you most proud of in 2024, and what are you most looking forward to in 2025?
I'm proud of everything that we talked about the council's achieved in 2024 on housing, homelessness. If you wanna put it down into one thing, I'm not really proud of our achievement. I'm proud of the way that our city has shifted from having challenges to seeing opportunities and actually taking steps. And I talked about, listen, it's not about the end result. It's about those quiet steps of persistence that fuels the progress. And I am very proud that our city and the mindset of our city has shifted, like I talked about. We are a leader. We are taking steps. Sometimes we take one step forward and have to take 2 steps back, but another 3 forward. But I am very proud that people have rallied together in this city in a way that shows me that we can be proud of ourselves, where they want to be leaders, where they seize the opportunities, where when we try to be part of the solutions, that the public is excited about that, right? That we're not shying away from bold decision making and trying new things. And so I'm most proud of seeing that shift in our community when we go out and talk. Like, you know, we've had some challenges as a city. We've had some big tragedies that have happened. We've been on the national stage for things that are horrific. And now we are on the national stage for business and arts and culture and leading in homelessness and leading in housing and being asked to give our advice, going on panels, having other cities come here and meeting with our staff to say, how are you doing this? We'd like to do that. Like, that is one of the things that I'm most proud of, and that is something that not council, not me, not you, not any individual in the city did together, but something we collectively did because we started believing that we could be more than maybe we were a few years back, and we are, and we're seizing that opportunity, and we have so much further that we could go. And so I'm proud of that because there's so much potential with that sort of thinking. London can be the most influential city in this province, in this country, if we step up and believe that we can be, right? And I'm going to tell Mark Sutcliffe I said that, the mayor of Ottawa, because we were talking about my speech. He's like, told him I was going to say we were better than Ottawa, so followed through on that commitment. So anyways, that's what I'm most proud of, and I want to thank everybody in this room and all Londoners who make that possible. And your innovation, your work, your inspiration, you showing up each and every day, that's actually what forms the foundation for our city to be really great.
Thank you for leaving us on a point of optimism. Join me in thanking Mayor Morgan for the State of the City address this year. Thank you.
And thanks to Mom. I can't do what I do without Mom,
Mom.
so Mom watches the
Thank
kids.
you to
and
all the
I appreciate
moms.
it. Yeah.
It's now my pleasure to wrap us up today and introduce Stuart Cottrell, representing our platinum sponsor, Deloitte. Stuart's a tax partner at Deloitte and a former director of the London Chamber Board of Directors. Welcome, Stuart.
Good morning, everyone. As was mentioned, my name is Stuart Cottrell, and I'm a tax partner at Deloitte and a former member of the Chamber Board. And Deloitte is proud to continue to be associated with the London Chamber of Commerce State of the City address as being a major sponsor ever since the inception of this event. This is an important event for the city as it provides Londoners with a peek behind the curtain to see the tremendous work that our city staff is doing. I think it is especially important in these uncertain economic times marked with shifting economic, geopolitical, and technological landscapes that we understand what it is that the city is doing so that we as a business community can align for prosperity. I'd like to thank Mayor Morgan for his insights, providing us views on the development that's going on in our housing hubs, in our city redevelopment in terms of the commercial space, and all the wonderful things that are happening here in London today. So I'd like to take this time to formally thank the mayor and everyone here in attendance today on their behalf. So Mayor Morgan, once again, you did a tremendous job. Thank you so much. And I'd like to have another round of applause for Mayor Morgan, please. Mayor Morgan, please also pass along our thanks to your team. We understand how much of an effort it is and all the teamwork that goes into pulling together the presentation and everything today. So thank you to everyone involved. And at this time, I'd like to hand it over to, we're going to hand it over to Rhonda to wrap us up today. Thank you.
So I just want to take an opportunity to thank all of the speakers that came to the stage today, as well as all of our sponsors, again, who make this event happen. But most importantly, I want to reflect on Mayor Morgan's messages and look at this room. This room is full of a business community. This is a guiding coalition to help move forward to the brighter tomorrow that Mayor Morgan talked about. This is a powerful room. Bring yourselves together as you always do. You always show up for London. We want to thank you for that. The Chamber wants to thank you for that. And you should go out into the business and make sure that you can bring that every day because we have something to be proud of in this city. So thank you for showing up today, London. We appreciate you.